So the forest can be protected through strategic planting, not just, you know, planting rows and rows of pine trees, but also planting, a row of cottonwood and trees that are not as flammable, and thus we'd protect the forest with fireproof rows of trees. They create so much oxygen for us and are the habitat of stability for Mother Nature, and also provide everything that we need to eat. So as such, most of the creatures in the Black Hills, for instance, have the cleanest meat. And what's been affecting the buffalo? So in the state, we've run into a problem. The problem is called brucellosis. It's sudden death syndrome for buffalo. And since they're a wild animal, they can't take all of these modern day chemicals. And it's showed up in our chickens, it's showed up in our beef, and like sudden infant death syndrome, it's related to tobacco. And we know that people that smoke cigarettes in their house, they have a 400% more chance of having SIDS. Well, the same thing with buffalo. When we combine fields of grazon, atrazine, diazone, herbicides and pesticides in conjunction with the use of genetically modified corn. And the culprit here in this area of consumption, which leads to death, would be GMO corn from Monsanto. So we do have a common denominator. We have Roundup, atrazine, grazon, and these chemicals don't just leave organically like gas, or excuse me, I should say oil, raw organic oil. These herbicides and pesticides, when we put them together, they last for 50 to 60 years. And typically Roundup will last for about 60 years. So they'll say that a farmland is clean if it's been not tampered with for 3 years, when in actuality, you're looking at least 57 more years of toxicity in that soil. So in the state of Oklahoma, I was keeping my mother alive, and she was facing stage 4 lung, liver, and spine cancer. And a lot of people that had various nutrition and herbicide products and fertilizers would come to me to try to get me to grow. And a man named David Dennis from Louisville, Texas, in the Highland Village area, he contacted me, and he gave me the stuff that he was making called Extra Grow. And when I put it into my crops for the first year, I didn't notice a dynamic change. And then I put all the buckets in the field because I had a lot of spent over fertilizer from growing, and I was growing for OMA. OMA stands for the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority. And under OMA, they were wondering the next year what I'd done to remediate my ground. And I was like, I had no idea. The only thing different was that I used this product called Extra Grow that was basically loaded full of enzymes and maybe bacteria that stimulated the mycorrhiza. So the mycorrhiza went like crazy, I noticed, when I put it on the ground. And then the mushrooms came, and then the roly-polies came, and then the bees came back, and the soil became alive again. And so that, with the cross-reference data from the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority, I was able to put together that this live substrate was in fact the common denominator to clean the soil. And time had passed by and my mother had passed away, and I wondered, well, why I even learned that. Flash forward a few years later, and I'm talking with brilliant people that are trying to save the buffalo, such as attorney Mario Gonzalez in Rapid City. And there was a man named Ken Hamilton working with the dear friend Wes Austin. And with Wes Austin comes 90,000 head of Black Angus cattle, and also a conjunction with buffalo. And we're experiencing some sort of toxicity here. So we use the Extra Grow with Ken Hamilton's biozymes, and the mushrooms came back, the insects came back, the bees came back. But something else happened up here that made this a full circle. When we took out the GMO, when we remediated the soil on the plains of Montana and South Dakota, all of a sudden our meat was considerably cleaner than all the other meats they were testing. Our fat was pure white, it wasn't yellow, it had no lead and mercury in it. By removing the contamination, we actually cleaned the soil completely. And aging, well, we stabilized the omega-3, 6, and 9 that was unstable because of the GMO corn. And so through taking out the genetically modified seed factors and just keeping it organic and raw, we got rid of the brucellosis. We brought the buffalo back. We ended sudden infant death syndrome for buffalo and for cattle. And this in turn stopped Bill Gates in his tracks because he wants us to eat a synthetic meat, a synthetic chicken, a synthetic egg. And that's a direct attack on our health as far as I'm concerned, and the stability of the agriculture economics in which we stand for as farmers and ranchers united. So bacteria, fungus, and mushrooms, stimulating the mycorrhizae, even industrial hemp. These are all plants that we can use in conjunction together to clean the soil so that we can produce cleaner beef. And by stabilizing this omega-3, 6, 9 balance, we can age our meat for 100 to 120 days. And we have the only beef that you can do this to, and it's because from farm to table we've perfected it. But it started with soil health and getting the dirt healthy, getting the dirt clean, which invited the bugs back, and then having the bugs back and bringing Mother Nature back. Well, now we can age our beef like we used to, and simultaneously we got rid of the toxicity. Anyways, I want you to join me and come investigate Sustainable Angels. Also investigate World's Nest, worldsnest.com, and know that we're doing fantastic things. In the state of South Dakota, I'll be working with Joby Sinclair Weeks, and Brock Pierce. Brock Pierce is a cryptocurrency billionaire, and Brock, Joby, and I are environmental activists. And the Pine Ridge Reservation has dedicated, we hear, 30,000 trees to the state of South Dakota, and we would like to dedicate another 30,000 trees. And we have a special tree out here that we call the miracle tree. It's a Kiri tree, and this version can go down to about -40, so we're going to see if it can also thrive in the state of South Dakota. This is also one of those trees that's a fire blockade tree, and it produces 10 times more oxygen than any other tree, and is the original carbon credit tree of the Kyoto Protocol. You can learn more information about that tree at Kiri, KIRI.info, INFO. So together, we're going to enhance the state. Together, we're going to clean the soil. Together, we're going to save the buffalo. And it all involves Mother Nature. Something else. A lot of people don't understand that, in fact, oil itself is organic. And when we can break it down, we can do that rather easily for trees. We can't do that with glycophosphates, and we can't do that with Roundup and atrazine because they've been chemically and refinedly put together. So the answer here is correctly, just like I'm saying, it's Extra Grow. Contact David Dennis, contact Ken Hamilton, myself, and Wes Hamilton. We're working directly in conjunction with the federal government and Robert F. Kennedy III, because we know that he can give this information to his father, and also our secretary that is with Health and Human Services, all the way down to Secretary Jim O'Neill. So Jim O'Neill with RFK3, in conjunction with our beloved governor that we had in the state of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, we can work together to make South Dakota as strong as Oklahoma and Texas, with our university systems working in tandem together so that we can implement soil health, because it starts with soil health so that we can be healthy. I'm Chris Sanders. Thank you for listening.